Live from New York. It's the show that will have several bets.
Oh!
It's a game of chance.
Yes.
We borrowed this from the Carton Show.
Look at what he has, Brew.
Well, it's the Carton Shows, and it was sitting there. It's one of those retroactive borrows, like, hey, we borrowed this.
Yeah.
And inside of this thing are several suggestions. Some of them just say cash money bet.
Okay, good.
We're going to be doing
it
all
doesn't
day.
sound great. It could use a little oil. It's a little Tin Man.
I know.
Oh, speaking of,
Tin
Could have got it oil.
Yeah.
no, I don't
It's
have
going
oil.
to be a bit aggravating throughout the show.
Okay, here's their numbers so far. Both guys
These are unbelievable.
considerably below their season averages. Tatum doing a little bit more other than scoring, but someone on Twitter referred to those assists as Ben Simmons assists, which I had never heard of, but I got.
Well, Chris Mannix said today to your buddy Bill Simmons that he thought 4 of them were scorekeeper gifts in game 2.
The assists?
That he said 4 of them were 3 dribble assists.
Yeah.
And so, that they were.
And 2 were I'm
kind.
scared
Did he
to
watch
shoot
the
assists.
game? I mean, did he go back in the film?
Again, that's just.
Maybe.
But go ahead.
All right, so, Brew, who's under more pressure tonight, Tatum or Kyrie?
I don't see how you could say anybody but Kyrie.
Really?
Well, number one, this is do or die for the Mavs, right? We would all agree
The Mavs are.
if they lose tonight, it's over. I mean, they're not coming back from a 3-0 series deficit, all right? So just that in and of itself, Nick, like Tatum could have a bad game tonight and they win, and they lose. And they're still in control of the series, at least until game 4 happens. You know what I mean? So just that in and of itself, to me, puts the most pressure on Kyrie. Also, while Tatum hasn't been very good, he hasn't been as bad as Kyrie. Like Tatum is, and I mean, look, I don't know how you want to look at the assists, but he's averaging 8.5 assists a game. That leads the series for both teams. He's averaging 10 rebounds. That leads his team. And I think his defense is solid. I'm not saying he's, Dennis Rodman, but he's playing solid defense. He's just not hitting shots. All right, but he's almost averaging a triple-double. 17, 10, and 8.5. So I'm not trying to act like, oh, he's playing well, nobody sees it. I'm just saying he's not in the ballpark of where Kyrie is. Kyrie is not. We know because of his size, he is kind of a scorer.
Yeah.
Now, he'll get you 5 assists or something. Not even doing that. He's getting you 4 assists. But, so I think he's not playing nearly as bad. Kyrie is viewed, probably rightly, as the reason the Mavs are down 0-2. Because he is not holding up his end of the bargain. You're not going to blame the role players. They haven't been horrible. They haven't been very good. And Luka's been playing fine. So Kyrie is viewed as that. And then I'll throw this in.
Yeah.
The so-called curse of Lucky. Like that's what's going around in Boston. Since he stomped on Lucky the Leprechaun, he's 0-12 against the Celtics. And so I just think that, look, I don't know where you're going, Nick. If people want to say Tatum's the better player, and Tatum, so there's more on the line for that.
That's
but
part of it.
I just think it's Kyrie.
So I think
without question.
100% it's Tatum.
Wow.
So listen, obviously there's more pressure on the Mavs than the Celtics. That's undeniable because it's 2-0. So I agree with you in that kind of window. But for me, the Kyrie situation is so different than Jason Tatum's. First of all, there is a very obvious, rational explanation for Kyrie Irving's struggles. The single best player in the league at perimeter defense is guarding him. So hold on, Brew, let me just get through it if I may. There is not that on the Mavs. It's not as if all of a sudden you have 2016 Kawhi Leonard, and it's like, okay, so there's a guy shutting you down. So that's the first point. You can draw a direct line of it's another great player doing a great job, as opposed to with Tatum, there's no one on the Mavs that were like, that guy is a great lockdown individual perimeter defender. Second point is the one you alluded to. Far more is expected from Jason Tatum. Far more is needed, not necessarily needed, but he is the better player on his team, so he's held to a higher standard. And then lastly, and this is the one that I think is most important, Kyrie already has a finals legacy. Kyrie already has multiple iconic finals games. He has inarguably one of, and arguably the single biggest shot in the history of the NBA Finals. And so much of Kyrie's legacy and legend is basically already cooked, or in a good way. Like, it's already baked in. His skill level, his size, his creativity, his ball handling. And so no matter what happens in this series, no one is going to be able to come out of this series and be like, you know what? Kyrie Irving crumbles under pressure. Kyrie Irving can't handle the NBA Finals. We can say he had a terrible finals. We can say he cost his team. But he already has something that cannot be taken away from him.
Right.
Jason Tatum, on the other hand, has gotten, in my opinion, up to this point, like 15% of the heat that his play warrants because they're up 2-0. If it was tied or if they were down 0-2 and these numbers were that, he would be getting crushed, I think, fairly. And I know people bring up, when we're like, what if he's bad in these finals throughout? What if he has back-to-back bad finals? And people bring up
win?
And no, and they lose.
Oh,
and they
okay.
lose.
Well, yeah,
and people bring up LeBron, who lost his first 2 finals. The first one didn't play great, and people didn't kill him for it. The second one played poorly, and people did kill him for it. I think that's instructive, Wildes, because LeBron James, who had 2 MVPs before that, won 2 more and 4 more titles after that, and went to 8 more finals, still has those finals thrown in his face. So if Jason Tatum, who right now, this moment, is the most inefficient shooter in finals history since the merger, since modern-ish basketball, continues to struggle and they lose and all of a sudden becomes a series, of course it's more pressure on him. Because Kyrie can only go so far backwards, and Tatum, meanwhile, has no finals his only finals legacy, if you will, is that he plays his worst basketball in it.
You made some good points, but if they win, I mean, if let's say these numbers remain 17, 10, and 7.
Yeah.
All right. And he takes it up a little, he shoots 38% or whatever. I mean, he's going to be a champion. He's going to be widely recognized as the best player on a championship team. And I would say about LeBron, the only reason or times that those 2 finals are brought up against him is in the GOAT debate.
That's
like
on
that.
This
otherwise,
show. I
most
think otherwise
people,
that's not
but
true.
But nobody's holding it like. Nobody's really holding it against LeBron to say, oh, he's not the first, or, well, let's say the first because he's not the GOAT if they, an argument. But they say he's the second best. So how much are you really holding it against him? I think it only comes up in those debates.
So can I ask one other thing before we move on here? So let's go under that circumstance.
Yeah, because my point was Tatum won't be in those debates.
No. I'm talking about if the Celtics win but Tatum plays poorly. You know what I mean? So I'm not certain that is as seamless from a human individual perspective as we are talking about. The idea that if Jason Tatum plays very poorly but the Celtics win, all is good for Jason Tatum, I don't think that is realistic to how alpha human beings, top-level athletes operate. Yes, he will be happy. Yes, he would rather, I believe, play poorly and they win than him play well and they lose. Mm-hmm. But it would add a weird, but for him personally to this season and this series.
Certainly.
Is that
Larry Bird averaged 9 points during a 3-game stretch of his first championship.
Yeah.
Cornbread Maxwell was the MVP. Now, Bird had some good moments in that series, but I'm just...
that this is Tatum's second finals. That was Bird's first. Like, chalk the first one up to nerves or bad luck, or you just don't have your shot.
I'm not saying we'll just forget everything. And you're right. It will... Like, if they make the finals again, it'll be like, okay, is Jason Tatum going to play well? I just think the series is in the balance tonight, and Jason Tatum can play poorly and they lose, and they're still very much more than alive. Whereas if Kyrie plays poorly and they lose, they're done.
30 points for Jason Tatum tonight.
Is it okay?
Do you want to have a bet on it?
What? Yeah, I'll take the under. Yeah, okay. Let's have a bet on it.
Okay.
How does this work? This is your silly bit. How do we do it? What are we doing? You're just rolling that thing out there? It's not even on camera. What's the bet?
This is our first bet of the day.
Okay. It's you versus me? What is it? What is it?
Loser has to wear a shirt with the winner's face on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think that's fair.
That's
great.
Who
is that between the three of us? Since we both have that. Well, you got him hitting 30?
Yeah, I've got the under.
I'm under that, too.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we know.
There we go.
So you have to wear it with both of our faces.
I actually would like that.
Okay.
I might wear that normally. I would wear that around. Does Luka need to do more?
So I have a prediction, Wildes.
Sure.
The turnovers he has to cut down on, I'm not excusing him. And the free throws, like you said, it's weird. It's also 6 of 13, so it's a small sample. He missed 4 in a row.
It's 2 games.
No, it is 2 games. But I'm saying I don't think he's going to shoot 50% on free throws, but there's no excusing that, I understand. But the commentary or dissection or critique about how he's playing offensively, aside from the turnovers, I think is going to shift tomorrow, and I think he's going to play the exact same way. The difference is guys will make their shots. Okay. I think that all of a sudden, if we track the numbers, we are going to see Game 2 passes, dribbles, field goal attempts versus Game 3 that they end up being very similar or in line with the pace of the game. But people say, oh, Luka got his teammates involved tonight, and the answer, what that means is Kyrie hit a 3 instead of being 0 for 8. Derrick Jones Jr. hit a 3. The P.J. Washington hit a 3. And it feels more like, because right now the Mavs are shooting 8%, other than Luka, on open or wide open threes. And that is leading to, in my opinion, a circular commentary of Luka needs to do more to get his teammates involved, when in reality, they're just missing shots. So I think, yes, he does need to do more scoring-wise. Yeah. I think he has to average 30.
He can't average 32 and win this series?
No. I think the rest of the way he's got to average 35. And I think he can. I think he's shown he can. But I think the people aren't really criticizing that he's not scoring enough. People are criticizing that he's not getting his teammates involved more. And I don't think it's a fair criticism, and I think it's just due to missed shots.
He had 11 assists last game with guys missing.
Yeah.
So I'm with you in that. The critique, Game 1, and even the 1 assist was a lot of that was due to missed shots. But also it was due to them adjusting to, okay, they're not doubling me at all. All right, so how are we going to work? How are we going to play this way throughout the series? But look, I think he's doing enough to win. He's basically, 31, 6 assists, and over 10 rebounds. He's leading the series in scoring and rebounding. To ask a guy to average more than 31 and 10 is pretty hard. So I think the question is not, does he need to do more, but can he do more? Okay, and I would say he can. And we glossed over it. I don't know why, because the free throws. Dude is shooting 46%. No, that's a big. Free throws are points.
I know.
They lost by 7.
Feels like an outlier.
He's not a good free throw shooter.
But 46%?
I know, but why? Why are you only shooting 46%?
Hold on, but what is he for his
He's 74% for his career. I mean, that's not terrible, but he's not
league average.
Great.
He's a league average.
Yeah, it's an average for a great player who's a guard who can shoot.
Below average.
He should be shooting better than 75%.
Okay.
All right, and so he's not a great free throw shooter, but this is big. They lost last game by 7. He missed 4 free throws. Let's say he makes 3 of them. I think it can be contagious. You see, they're not a good free throw shooting team, period. They're last in the playoffs in free throw shooting. They're bottom 4 in the regular season in free throw shooting. That's a problem. When games are close and you can't hit free throws, that is an issue. So if he's shooting 75% from the free throw line, maybe they would have won that game, because you can't just say, oh, it's more, you know what I mean?
I understand.
So I think he can do better than that. And I do think the one thing is the usage rate. That's a little high. It went down to 31 in the first 3 rounds. Now it's back up to 36. So that's where you can kind of get more guys involved.
So here's what Kevin Looney told Draymond. And this is not just me. It just happens to line up exactly with what I think.
We're going to play Rashad McCann's quote next?
You don't like Kevin Looney, champion?
No, I appreciate what he is as a player.
He's speaking as a role player.
The appeal to authority fallacy here might be big.
What do you want me to do?
Go ahead. No,
you want me to say a guy on this my bar?
Go ahead.
What do you want to say?
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
What is
Josh?
Let's hear it.
We appeal authority.
You know what?
Josh.
I might trust
Well,
Josh.
Well, I got
Go
Josh
ahead.
coming on the back end of this. I think he needs to get his role guys a little more involved in the first half. I know as a role guy in the first quarter, if you don't get a layup or a dunk or something to get you going, you get a little tense, and later in the game, you're not going to be able to shoot the ball as well. So then Josh, authority figure on the show, this is first quarter shooting. Luka is 8 for 14. Great. Kyrie, 6 for 10. Great. They are superstars. P.J. Washington, 3 for 5. Derrick Jones Jr. got 3 total shots. Gafford has 2 total shots. one of them just a put-back dunk.
Yeah, well, by the way, all of Gafford's shots, the reason he shot hold on. What did Daniel Gafford shoot in the conference finals? Does anyone know? Because I do. 100%.
Well,
why?
Half
because they are all dunks and lobs. You know what I mean? And so that to me is a Joe Mazzulla Celtics stat about what they're taking away. And here is the reason that I am just, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Kevon Looney or to you, Kevin Wildes, but if there were a bunch of instances of, hey, look at this guy who was wide open that Luka didn't give it to, we'd have it.
No, I'm talking scheme-wise.
Well,
I'm not talking about a decision to make snap
that
right
can
away.
Be on kids.
That's
Jason
what I'm
Kidd.
saying. I don't believe that it can be boiled here. I think there's two schools of thought. One, Luka is doing everything. These guys need to make shots. Or two, Luka can be a force multiplier and help these guys get better. If you're saying that's impossible, I disagree.
They're off. Part of why he makes people better is when he draws double teams.
Yes.
The same thing for Kyrie. And Boston is saying, we're not doubling. So now he can either pass it to a guy that's single coverage that other than Kyrie can't create his own
maybe
shot.
It's a kid thing.
Or, but it's hard to adjust the offense at this point.
Right now, it's a personnel thing. Right now, in my opinion, the Celtics have made a bet that even if we single cover Luka, he's not going to torch us for 40 plus, and so it's worth it. That's why I'm saying for them to win. I didn't think going into the series, Luka would have to average 35 for them to win it, or else I wouldn't have picked them to win it, in 5. But with how they're guarding him, with the fact that they are basically saying we are not giving any of your role guys anything easy at the rim, what you give up in that if you're Boston is Luka's going to have better looks than he typically gets because they're not blitzing him, they're not doubling him. So because of that, he has to score more.
Yeah.
I think, and that
even
will
as
force
he's
them
playing,
out of
though,
it.
if Kyrie were playing,
Well, that's the right.
90% of his capacity, they might.
Kyrie's
be
almost
tied
separate
up.
from this.
Get a stop and get out
Yes.
on the transition. Okay, we're going to end with some sad news out of the NBA. Jerry West has passed away at the age of 86. 14-time All-Star as a player, the architect of some of the best teams in league history, as an executive basketball ambassador around the world, in literally the league's logo. Brew, how will you remember Jerry West?
Man, I knew Jerry pretty well. From covering the league for almost 30 years, I used to talk to him a lot. He was one of my favorite people to talk to on the phone. He loved talking about what's going on around the league and all that. So I'll remember him in that way. Obviously, I didn't see him as a player, but I studied him and studied his numbers and his career. Nick, I've got him as the third best shooting guard ever, behind Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And I think it's fair to say he's like a basketball genius because he obviously was a great player. And then in the front office, he helped build the Showtime Lakers. He, got Shaq as a free agent to come to L.A. He drafted Kobe or traded for Kobe when Kobe was drafted 13th. Mm-hmm. Kobe did not come out of high school like LeBron, where it was like, oh, it's a no-brainer. He was drafted 13th, but Jerry West saw this kid is special. And then when he went to Memphis and Golden State and the Clippers, he's always had success. So I really liked him a lot. Like I said, he was one of my favorite people to talk to in the league. And I'll miss him. And this is like the NBA is going to miss him. We know he's the logo, but that's not an overstatement. Jerry West was just ubiquitous with the NBA, really.
There's a very strong argument to be made that over the last 60 years, there is not a single person that has had more impact on the events of the NBA than Jerry West. There's, I'm not trying to do a who was more important, whatever it is, but from when he set foot on the court for the Lakers to a couple drafts ago, his fingerprints being all over the league. And I think everyone knows, I think more people know about his impact off the court, front office, Showtime Lakers, Shaq, all of that. The famous moment when he's at the draft running the Grizzlies and they're either going to get LeBron or nothing. They know they know the logo. What I don't know if people quite recognize is what an absolute badass of a player he was. So I want him to say it in his own words, and then I'm going to rattle off some jaw-dropping numbers for you if we could. Here's Jerry West talking about himself. That is definitively true. And again, I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you very quickly, but he was 10-time first-team All-NBA. That's the same amount of times as Michael Jordan or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's tied for the 4th most. He's the greatest player ever without an MVP. It's kind of shameful he didn't have one. I think got robbed in 1970. But he did finish top 5 8 times and finish second 4 times. And finishing second, of course, is something of what he's associated with. 7 consecutive finals losses. One of them in 1970, his 7th straight finals loss, actually. In Game 3, he hit one of the greatest shots in NBA history to force overtime with a second left, which I think we can show you from 55 feet out. We'll show it to you at some point. Here it is, down 2 in the finals, Game 3. Bang. Jerry West in the NBA Finals. 10 times. Scored 40 points. Only LeBron and Michael have more than 5. Jerry has the mess. Jerry West in the NBA Finals 8 times, played 48 or more minutes. And how did he lose those finals? In 1962, he lost in a Game 7 in overtime by 3. In 1966, he lost in a Game 7 by 2. In 1969, in a Game 7 with a pulled hamstring, he had 42, 13, and 12 and lost by 2. All of those to Bill Russell, that last one winning Finals MVP. He then lost a game. He lost the Willis Reed game despite dropping 31. And then, of course, he finally won it in 1972. If he had never spoke of basketball again after he retired, he'd be one of the most important, greatest players ever. And instead, he added 50 years of greatness in the front office.
And he's the leading scorer in the finals.
Right.
More points than anybody else. Only guy ever to win in the MVP in a losing effort. So he'll be missed for sure.
Jerry West was 86. We'll be right back.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.